part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Welcome to another Reg Iron Rhoda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our fantastic producer, Jordan Powell. Make sure everything sounds fantabulous for all of you listening out there in the podcatosphere. And Michael, it's been a little while and a lot's happened since we last did the R&R podcast. The Guardians are battling for first place in the AL Central. Deshaun Watson's hearing finally came to a close without a decision. We'll get into both of those a little bit later in the podcast, but let's say we start with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had a lottery pick last week and selected Ochai Obagi from Kansas, the shooting guard small forward with pick number 14 overall. Your thoughts on that selection?
And we saw a lot of them, I guess, because, he won a national championship, plays with a program that is very much, in the public mainstream as far as college hoop goes with Bill Self and his Kansas Jayhawks. Kenny, I like Obagi. I think he's can be a helpful piece for the Cavaliers, depending on what they do with them and how they and it depends on how they go to use him. Now, do I think that he's got a chance to be this high ceiling guy eventually, Ken, that, takes the NBA by storm and announces his presence, so to speak? Yeah, I don't know about that, Kenny. I don't think he has those type of elite skills, but we know this. And it goes against the grain, Ken, doesn't it, a little bit? Was it a guy who's a 4-year player, right? A 4-year starter. So he's 22 years old. And as I said, hey, listen, if you're gonna stay 4 before you start your NBA career in this day and age, I'd want to be with a program like the Kansas Jayhawks because I know I'm going to win. Like I said, I'm going to be front and center all the time, and the spotlight's going to be on me all the time. So he made that decision. Shoots the basketball pretty well. Perimeter guy, shot it well. What, he right near 40% from 3 this last year. So we're going to, take him another foot out and see if that translates to the NBA. Given where they picked Kenny, I was surprised because I thought there at 14, they're looking, trying to get that 19-year-old, maybe that young guy. The difference is, I think the Cavaliers thought, well, but those young guys maybe are going to take a little time before they could do the things that this 4-year guy with the Kansas Jayhawks can and give us right away, meaning can get in the rotation, and maybe give them 15, 17, 18 minutes a night and give them it well, too. I believe that was the thought with the drafting of Obagi. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. I would have loved Malachi Branham from Ohio State. I think he maybe has more potential, more upside down the road than Obagi does. But if you're trying to qualify for the playoffs next year, right, and you're trying to win in that window when you have an Evan Mobley, you want the more established, more mature player, more experienced player, and that's why they went with the 6'5", 215-pound senior guard forward out of Kansas. 19 points a game, 5 rebounds a game. I rounded up to 41% from beyond the arc. Supposedly likes to get after it defensively and has a 6'10" wingspan. Mm-hmm. So you put all that together, and the fact he's more experienced, I think that's why they went that route over a Tari Eason from LSU, a Malachi Branham from Ohio State. I also was told, though, Reg, that they did try and move up a couple of spots. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they were targeting Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, who they liked a lot, or if it was Ousmane Dieng from the New Zealand Breakers, who they liked a lot. I think it was one of those two that they were trying to maybe move up to 11 is what I was told with OKC to try and get somebody. But when that fell through, they stood pat at 14 and they selected Obagi. And on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC, we had a chance to talk with Ochai. And hey, outstanding kid.
Sure.
If you're talking about the culture there with the Cavaliers, they're trying to build. He fits right in. He played for Bill Self. He was the most outstanding player in the Final Four, won a national championship. Mikal Bridges comes to mind when I think of him and maybe what he can do for the Cavs with what Mikal Bridges is doing for the Phoenix Suns. You hear Frankie barking in the background.
What's happening, Frankie? He liked the pick.
He did. And I think maybe when you look at Mikal Bridges, he won 2 national championships for Jay Wright and Villanova and was the older player coming out. And he was just selected to the all defensive team in the NBA. So I think that's maybe who they were kind of looking at when they selected him and made the pick, and then decided, you know what, with the 3 second rounders, we'll roll the dice a little bit, right? We'll take a big swing on Khalifa Diop, the 7-footer that they took in the second round, Evan Mobley's brother, Isaiah Mobley, that they picked up there in the second round, and then Luke Travers out of Australia. Maybe they got some intel from Delhi on him, a 6'7" point guard that they selected there. So that's where I think they took their swings on the younger guys and wanted the more sure thing in their eyes with Obagi at 14.
Ken, I also think there was some conversation to try to go up as high as 4 too.
Oh, wow.
And with the Sacramento Kings, and of course, who the hell ever knows what that organization is want to do from day to day. But the point is that, you know, if one of Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, or Jabari Smith, and, you know, hey, drafts are funny. Well, that was conventional feeling, right? That those are going to be the top 3 off the board. But I think the Cavaliers thought, well, by chance, if somebody jumps in there and maybe goes for Keegan Murray of Iowa or Jaden Ivey in the top 3, which, you know, was a small possibility. I think maybe they were ready to go as high as 4 to get the one that wasn't taken there between those 3. But when that kind of went by the wayside, and maybe too, it was who knows what Sacramento was really looking for there to go up that high. But no, you're right. And again, you get in that situation, Ken, and it kind of, you know, I talked to a couple of fans like, that guy, that's a BS, man. Well, now, what do you expect at 14?
Right.
I mean, come on now. This isn't the NFL and Major League Baseball where you got 6-7 rounds and you got a shot to go at 14. Man, the NBA, by the time you get, isn't it normally, Ken? By the time you get by, you in most drafts, the top 5, 6, maybe 7 some years, man, it's kind of, you know, the shooting fish in the barrel thing, right?
Oh, in the NBA draft, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Cavalier fans have been used to them picking in the top 5, top 8 since LeBron left. Well, the good news is you weren't there, but you were still in the lottery at 14. So you get a plug-and-play guy right now that should be able to step in as a rotation guy off the bench probably and give you minutes at the 2-3, knock down the open three-pointer. He's a spot-up shooter. He needs to get better. His weaknesses are creating off the dribble, better handle.
That's right.
You know, finishing better around the rim. And his mid-range game is not good, Reg.
It's not.
I saw the shot chart, and beyond the arc, he's 40% or better. Inside, where you should be about 45 to 50 at least, there's some areas where it's like, 30 what percent for 2-point shots. So that's his weakness that he needs to improve on offensively, the handle, creation. And the mid-range shot. Right.
And it doesn't mean, you know, again, you don't have to be a 100-meter guy with tremendous speed, but he's not particularly fast afoot either. And again, you could say, well, basketball, well, right. No, you know, it's not like you're looking for, you know, a track man there, but those are the things that the scouts have, you know, looked at. As you said, the main thing is, though, Kenny, he's going to have to improve his handle. If he wants to be able to, you know, as you start to get inside that 3-point line and make some things happen for himself and for the Cavaliers offensively, he's got to improve that handle, man, because, you know, there were some things that kind of showed up at times like, ooh, that's, you know, as we said, 4-year guy with this tremendous program. And at times it became an issue. So, but overall, I like it. I like the fact that he hopefully can provide them the thing that they need the most, and that's someone to come in and be a legitimate threat from beyond the arc and firing home threes. My question is, Kenny, do you think they're possibly not done, and you think they'd like to maybe get some more happening for themselves? And who do you think possibly now with his drafting is maybe the player or two that the Cavaliers feel like they could potentially move to get some other assets in another position?
Well, I'm looking at free agency. By the way, we're taping this on a Thursday night. It just got underway, and big contracts have already been handed out to Bradley Beal with the Wizards. 5 years, $251 million. The Joker got 200 and some change, whatever that is. Who else? You had I'm trying to remember. Kyrie picked up his option. Westbrook picked up his option.
Right.
So 36 and 47 million there.
Incredible.
But if I'm the Cavaliers, I still need me an athletic wing. Mm-hmm. I need me a three that can shoot the three, but also defend, because I'm sorry, I'm not on the Isaac Okoro train. I'm not a believer. I think he's going to be a low back end, low rotation guy. Miles Bridges is a restricted free agent, but he's going to cost you 25 to 27 mil a year, and you may not get him because he's restricted out of Charlotte, and he also just got arrested for felony domestic violence charges. So that's hanging over his head. TJ Warren is a guy that I'm going to throw out to you, Reg. Coming off an injury year, I believe 6 to 8 million, 28 years old. He's that 3-4 that maybe they could be, looking for. And that's what Chris, and I wasn't a big fan of Chris Grants, the old GM of the Cavaliers, right? He's the one who drafted Anthony Bennett. That's all we got to say on that. So, but he did tell me one thing, and I agree with him. He said, part of my job as a GM is to find that guy that was somewhere else and it didn't work out for whatever reason, but would be a good fit in our system. He said, we need to, and he used this example, we need to find a guy like Chauncey Billups, right? High draft pick, didn't work out with the Boston Celtics, but boy, he ended up having a hell of a career, champion, and fit perfectly with the Pistons. That's my job as the general manager, Chris Grant told me. So Kobe Altman needs to fill that spot, I think, with somebody that they think can be a Chauncey Billups-like player in their system, right? Is it TJ Warren? Is it Joe Ingles? Is it Kyle Anderson, Otto Porter Jr.? Those are just names that, I wrote down as possibilities that are between $6 and $10 million a year type guys.
Yeah, and the money's going to have to be right, as you just intimated. And also, I'd like a guy that's got 5, 6, 7 years in the league too. That's what this Cavalier team is young, man. They're young, and I think they've got us excited. They certainly put together a season last year. I think that warrants that for everybody, even the most harsh critics. But I want, at this point, Kenny, if you're talking about a guy coming off a bench and being a guy that can stabilize and lead a little bit for you, I need a guy that's a younger veteran here, a guy that's been in the league for 5 or 6 years and hopefully maybe played on a team and has been a piece that team needed to have them as a playoff team, because that's what you're looking for with bringing in somebody who's, not going to be a starter, but you want him to be able to be a strong guy off the bench that could give you minutes. And maybe when on that night when your starters are, is going to happen in an 82-game NBA run that the starters don't have it that night, a guy that maybe, all right, we could play him 28 minutes. And he's going to give it to us because he's proven he's done that before. Those names that you mentioned, I don't know if any of them fit into that type of category, but this is where Kobe Altman and his front office staff, Kenny, are going to really have to dig deep and try to get this right. Because, you say, well, it's not that important. Yeah, it is important, You got to have those kind of guys on this team, especially on this type of a younger basketball team. So let's hope they're able to find that.
Warren's coming off a foot injury. I was doing the research there while you were chatting, Reg. So that's something to take into consideration. The Celtics reportedly interested in him. I don't know if he's already signed with somebody or not, as things are moving fast and furious. JaVale McGee just signed up or committed to the Dallas Mavericks. It looks like Brunson from Dallas is going to join the Knicks.
Right.
The Blazers are re-upped with Simmons. Their shooting guard, small forward on a 4-year, $100 million deal. Portis staying with the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's see here. What else? How about this? Kevin Durant once traded again. What do you know? Huh?
Unbelievable. That lasted literally less than 24 hours where he said, I'm staying, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Cavaliers, they've got to find some help somewhere at that small forward wing position. And they still need a veteran backup point guard too, Reg.
They do. Ricky Rubio, get him back here.
Won't be ready, though, till December, January. Can you wait that long?
That's true. I rather not wait that long. But
how about this name?
I thought he was terrific in that role with the Cavaliers last year.
How about this name? Patty Mills.
Patty Mills.
33 years old.
Brooklyn hardly played him the last couple.
I know. 6 to 8 mil is what his contract area is. So he's out there. Goran Dragic and Austin Rivers, along with Rubio and Gary Payton, who just won a ring with the Golden State Warriors. So those are some of the point guards that would fall into the category of the money the Cavaliers would have to spend.
Right. Austin Rivers, feisty, guy that's going to fight you and always play hard and kind of, at times, that's maybe his best attribute. I mean, knock down a shot here and there for you. But, hey, he's got that NBA pedigree with Dad Doc, so right. But that's the kind of guy. Rubio's the guy for me, Kenny. And again, you're right. I mean, no, that's not a perfect world that he might not be able to go until December. And even then, I'll give you, how close to full go and ready to play those 18 to 20 minutes a night is he going to be? But that's
big
kind of like a roll of the dice, right?
Yeah.
He can play. When healthy, and he certainly showed it last year. So,
how about this name? If you want a veteran, says he's going to buy out. They're going to buy out his contract in Detroit. What about Kemba Walker at this point in time in his career? You have any interest in the 32-year-old who averaged 11 points a game in 37 games last year, but he's been injury prone?
No. Look at Boston said, "Get the hell out of here." Didn't want any part of him. He lasted about. He was awful with the Knicks when he was the starting point guard to begin the season with them, Kenny. And that lasted about a week, and then that ended for Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks. So I don't know. It just seems like he has kind of worn out his welcome everywhere, and doesn't seem like he's got a lot left in the tank to me.
All right. So the need for a backup point guard, for a wing, an athletic wing, and a backup center, I think, are the three things that Kobe Altman has on his agenda this offseason in free agency or via trades. Maybe he can swing something for Kevin Durant. I don't know if Kevin would want to come to Cleveland or not, but maybe he can try. I know Phoenix is high on his list. Imagine that. I want to go to another really good team. And the pressure's not as much over there since there'll be good players around me and all. Whatever.
Yep.
Boy, are there bigger drama queens in the NBA than Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving right now? Serious. I know, hey, LeBron James is a drama king, okay? Big time. But he can do and say what he wants. The dude's done everything and anything that's been expected of him since he came in the league and has exceeded everybody's expectations. But those two, my goodness, when are you going to be happy, man? Come on already. My God, with KD and Kyrie Irving.
Obviously, I guess the money doesn't make them happy. I mean, I don't think they give a damn about the money. Honestly, it's just all about, you're right. It's constantly, see, I would find old school in my butt, Kenny. I'd have a hard time trying to, as a GM or a head coach, just trying to every day placate those two. It would be I admit, it'd be very difficult for me. I wouldn't be the guy that you'd want, as in those roles if that's the road you were going down, because it's I just don't know if it's a winning situation. I don't know if you say, well, yeah, two of the greatest players in the world. But when you got all that other stuff going on every day and you still got 11 other guys, Kenny, that you're having to try to make it all work with. And in Irving's case, the biggest thing with him, you don't know if you're going to get 40 games a year from him. And that's the biggest problem. And
yeah,
so
I would pass.
I would pass. I wouldn't want any of that.
Yeah, no, we'll see what direction they go in this offseason to make them. And don't forget, too, and I'm not a huge fan of his, but I'll give him the offseason and training camp, Karis LeVert, see what he can do at that 2-3 position. The three ball is in his area of expertise.
I think he'll be better this year. Yeah.
Show me some defense and more consistency in the offense, and maybe that'll help the Cavaliers out like they wanted him to last year.
I do think with a training camp, Kenny, and at least a little bit, at least the beginning of the groundwork of now comfortability and familiarity with his teammates. I think you're going to see the better Karis LeVert this year than for that. What I don't know, 24 games last year. I think,
and he was hurt and
he was hurt. He missed
the lineup.
6. Yeah. So I think there's got a chance to be a much larger positive for the Cavaliers with LeVert.
All right, Michael, before we get to this break here on the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, got to give a shout out to our title sponsor, MGM Northfield Park. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening. Post time, 6 p.m. Now, on July 4th, no live harness racing, but there will be simulcast racing that you can wager on. And don't forget, weekly Sunday handicapping contests feature Belmont Park. The top prize each week is $500. Registration begins at 11 a.m. for that every Sunday. They're open every day for simulcast action, including July 4th. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. When we come back here on the R&R podcast, we're going to dive into Deshaun Watson. The hearings are over. What will the punishment be? How soon will it be handed down? We'll get into all that next right here on the R&R podcast.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
Hey everyone, this is Mike Voorhees.
And I'm Brian Shaw. No, not the pitcher. We're the Guardians of the Land MLB podcast, formerly a Swinging a Tribe.
Don't have time to watch 162 games of baseball? We do. We have you covered with recaps of the games, stats, and analysis throughout the MLB season.
Subscribe now to Guardians of the Land and Press Play Pods for all your Cleveland sports analysis.
What's good, everybody? My name is Taylor Vanderbilt, and I'm the host of the Full 40 College Basketball Podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. On the Full 40, we talk about literally everything college basketball related. It could be women's, it could be men's, it could be recruiting, it could be the tournament. It does not matter. We cover it all. So check it out. Again, it's the Full 40 College Basketball Podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we continue with the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park. And Michael Regai, here's the headline from ESPN.com as we're taping this podcast. Source: Deshaun Watson's disciplinary hearing over after 3 days. No timetable for the ruling on this. So had a chance with the NFLPA and the NFL and the judge or the arbitrator in this case Sue Robinson to listen to everything for 3 days, and no ruling came out of these 3 days of meetings. There was one report that maybe they were going to try and meet halfway, somewhere in between, and come up with a punishment that both sides could agree to, but that didn't happen.
Right.
Sue Robinson didn't hand down her punishment. She's going to do more research, I guess, into this. And what say you on this, and what Deshaun Watson and the Browns can hope for, and what they should do if a punishment is handed down sometime before training camp?
Oh, Kenny, it's very obvious that the league wants the whole year. I mean, that's very obvious. They want a year's suspension, hell, maybe an indefinite suspension that carries into 2023, but for sure the whole year. The NFL PA, I think they're still looking for their optimum, Kenny, would be no games suspended.
Right.
If I were them, though, Ken, I'm still in the mindset. I don't know if this is much different than when we were last together and touched on this at this point. If I were Deshaun Watson and the Browns as his employer, if that was somehow some way it was like 6 games, Ken, even 8 games, if I were them, take it and let's move on so you could get back to playing football. And I'm assuming that's what you want. I know, Kenny, it's kind of the crosshairs because he came out and said that, there was nothing on my part that was at all in the wrong with these women. But then you decided in, the 23rd hour of this to start, paying civil suit money. So, that's why I'm saying if I was Watson and his, and his group right now, if they get fortunate and that's what it is, it's, Sue Robinson decides, all right, we're going to go to 6 games, even 8 games. Hey, I would not fight that and accept it and move on.
Reg, if I'm the Browns and they come back and say it's 8 games, I say, go ahead and appeal it. But whatever happens on the appeal, take that, right? If they say it's the entire season, you want to appeal it, that's fine. But then we're going to accept, whatever comes back after the appeal. I want this thing in the rear view mirror as quickly as possible. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I want to know for this season and for next season, who's going to be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, not only as a front office and a coaching staff. It makes you look bad if you don't know that and you lose them for a year or indefinitely, right? But also in fairness to his teammates, so they know what the hell's going on. And also, Reg, if it is indefinite or at least for a year, I'm sorry, I'm not a Jacoby Brissett guy. I'm looking at other options, and if I know it's all 17 games, Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco, I'm exploring that option. Cam Newton as a free agent, I'm exploring that option. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I know he retired, but he's played for half the leagues or the teams in the league. So see if he wants to come.
Played well too.
Yeah. So I'm looking at other options, A, either as a starter, or B, if you like Brissett, you better get a better backup than Joshua Dobbs, because you're one snap away, one injury away from Dobbs being your starting quarterback.
If that's the case, as you laid out, going to have to bring another quarterback in here. There are still many that are holding out hope and thinking that still could be named Baker Mayfield. I don't see that at all. I think that the Browns want no part of him. He wants no part of them. And Kenny, I would be shocked at this point if the Browns put their tails between their legs and turned to Baker Mayfield. Immediately they went out and got Jacoby Brissett, right? Now, I'm not saying that, look, to me, we've discussed this. Jacoby Brissett, to me, is a average, decent NFL quarterback. Nothing more than that. I think if everything goes right, there's a chance you could maybe be, a 500 team or a little bit better with them. Now, that's if everything goes right. but I certainly wouldn't expect him to be a guy that's going to go out if he had to play a full season and go 12-5, 13-4 for you. I just don't see that he's that type of QB. However, yes, they're going to have to come up with somebody. And to me, that's why I thought they might have made more of a move at someone like Matt Ryan, Kenny.
Yeah.
When it became clear that, he was not going to play in Atlanta any longer. But, okay, that's all gone now. But now the quarterback possibilities are kind of limited, aren't they?
Yes.
You got to go get another one.
Unless you trade, right?
Unless you don't trade, but oh boy.
That's it. Garoppolo's available.
Boy.
Maybe Sam Darnold in Carolina. Would you
Don't
swap
want no
Baker
part of
Mayfield?
Darnold.
No? Okay.
No,
right.
I don't like Darnold. I just, a guy was a number one overall draft pick. I probably liked him a little bit more while he was playing at USC, but I haven't seen anything that Kenny made me feel like he's a guy that you can win with, and on a team that is expected to win. Like I said, Jimmy Garoppolo. I suppose.
What about straight up for Baker Mayfield to get rid of the drama of Mayfield, right? And you don't have to deal with him anymore. And they get rid of their guy because they got Trey Lance that is the starter, and Baker becomes their backup for a year and then becomes a free agent. And you bring in Jimmy G here to be your backup or to challenge Jacoby Brissett as a starter.
Yeah.
And again, he had shoulder surgery and it was on his throwing shoulder, whereas Baker had it on his non-throwing shoulder.
Right.
And as I'm going through physical therapy, regardless of what shoulder it's on, it hurts like hell.
Huh?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Trust me when I tell you that. I can't even sleep some nights. So
I believe you.
But I would, if they just wanted to go straight up Jimmy G for Baker, I'd do that in a heartbeat, even if I have to pay a little bit more money. But you got the cap space with the Browns. And if this solves your hole as a backup or maybe a starter for the entire season, as the suspension is for the entire year, then you pay the extra money happily to have a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo instead of a Jacoby Brissett.
As much as the league wants it, Ken, I want your thought on this too. I don't think it's going to be for the entire year. Okay. I get all the rhyme and reason that would say it should be. At this point, Kenny, I just don't think that's going to be the end game and the bottom line on this. What about you?
I wish I had a better feel for this. I don't, Reg, right? I look at this. I'll give you my own opinion on this, not what the league is going to do, okay?
Yeah.
I look at this and I see 66 different massage therapists, right?
Yep.
And 26 have filed suits against him. Now, the criminal charges were dropped, so the evidence wasn't strong enough to, indict with the grand jury, 2 separate grand juries.
Right.
But still, you just look at that and you go, something ain't right here. Something went on. What? I don't know. And it's a he said, she said. So is it enough because of the number, and he paid off 20 of them already? Does that warrant a longer suspension because of the number of women with the allegations? Or do you say, what are the facts? And the facts are there are no criminal charges, but he broke the morals code, but so did the owner of the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft. So did one of the peeping Toms, allegedly, for Jerry Jones's organization. And nothing's happened with them. And I know the NFLPA is going to use that in their argument,
of course they are,
in favor of Deshaun Watson. So I really don't have a feel for this. If I were to guess, I would say 8 games, which is at least half the season.
Okay.
As opposed to the entire season or 0 games. That's just a guess on my part.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to, the entire season thing is going to fly. And if it turns out that's what happens and they get, well, first of all, it's going to be heavily fought by Watson and the entire NFLPA. So I just don't see that, Kenny. And so we're still in the same place. That's why I say I think it's going to be something in the 6 to 8 game area right now. And again, I don't know, Kenny, if the Browns can get that close to a half season out of him.
Okay.
And I do think, to me, I don't know, again, I'm going to start going through quarterback rankings, but, I would put him definitely in the top 10 as a starting quarterback in this league. I got him right in, that 7-8 area. That's me. Some think he's 5-6.
Right.
Talent-wise and what he can produce. I do think he's a guy that can be the best that the Cleveland Browns have had at the position, Kenny, in a long time. And given what is there around him, so I said, should be able to, win, let's just say, a decent amount of football games and put you in a position to do something that you want to do when January rolls around, be in the playoffs and continue to play winning football in January. So, will he get that shot? I'm thinking that he's going to this year. It may not be the full season, but I do think we're going to see Deshaun Watson play football for the Browns this season.
All right, Reg, we'll get a break in here on the R&R podcast. When we come back, we got to give some love to the Guardiac kids. How about those Cleveland Guardians and what they've been able to do as of late with 17 come from behind wins, walk-off wins, beating the Twinkies and getting back in the AL Central race. We'll talk Guardians baseball when we return here on the Press Play Podcast Network and the Reg Eye and Rhoda podcast. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. You can catch the excitement of live harness racing every Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening. Post time is 6 p.m. But remember this, July 4th, no harness racing, no live harness racing that night. No, but you can wager on the simulcast racing on July 4th and put it in your calendar. Weekly Sunday handicapping contest features Belmont Park. Top prize each week is $500. Registration begins at 11 a.m. Open early every day for simulcast action, but not on July 4th. Put that in the calendar or your phone or wherever you put it these days. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park.
What's up, everyone? Chase Smith here, host of the Chase Smith Podcast, and my podcast reflects who I am. My hobbies, my interests, my passions, my curiosities, my careers, my questions, and my family. I'll spend time talking about all types of sports, movies, TV shows, trending news stories, and other cultural events, and even faith. This is who I am, and I hope I can get to know you as well. Join me on the Chase Smith Podcast, and let's have some thought-provoking conversations, only on the Press Play Podcast Network.
We are excited to announce that we are joining the Press Play Podcast Network. The Krypton Report podcast is dedicated to all things Superman, Supergirl, and the planet Krypton. We discuss movies, TV, game, comics, and all things DC.
So join me, Tyler, with my co-host James and Jania.
So join us as we explore DC's multiverse.
Look for Krypton Report on all social media platforms.
And welcome back to the Reg Eye and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening. Post time is 6 p.m. They have weekly Sunday handicapping contests featuring Belmont Park. Top prize each week, $500. Registration on those Sundays begins at 11 a.m. They're open early every day for simulcast action, except July 4th. They're off. Enjoy the holiday. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. And you know what else is exciting right now, Reg? The Cleveland Guardians, a baseball team that for a while there looked like, well, yeah, they're not going to win 81 games and play 500 baseball. And then all of a sudden they go 7-2 on a road trip. Then they lose 5 in a row. Then they win 2 in walk-off fashion in back-to-back games against the first-place Twins. And what do you know? 5 games over 500 and only a game out of first in the AL Central as we hit July 1st, Michael Rega.
Kenny Rhoda, they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
They've got me. They're fun to watch. They play an exciting brand of small ball, if you will, that's based around pitching, as we know. They don't have a bunch of big boppers, And yet I say that, and those two you're talking about, the last 2 days come in walk-off fashion with big blasts to win games. Kenny, I said they've got me. I enjoy watching them. They play hard. They want to play the game the right way. Sometimes they slip up from that a little bit. Listen, they're one of the youngest teams in all of Major League Baseball, right? And, for the most part, although it hasn't been as good as we thought it would be this year, numbers-wise, but they pitch, they can pitch, and that even they've had some bullpen issues lately, as we know. And as we said, some of the starters have not been as formidable as they had been, say, in the last year or two. All of that having been said, Ken, I mean, these last couple of games, fun, man. A lot of fun. I know you were down there when I went Friday night, and they were in the midst of what turned out to be a 5-game, losing stretch that they were in. But these last two, Kenny, think about it. They're 3 games back, and without that, they lose last night, and they lose today, Thursday. They'd have been 5 back of Minnesota. Instead, they get the big swings when they need it. They're just a game back in the AL Central, and they've got themselves in position. Right now, I know we're not even hit the halfway point yet, right? I believe you and I both had them when we did this, our preseason look here on the R&R podcast on Press Play Podcast Network. We both had them right around a little bit less than 500. I know I had them
at 75. 75 wins was my number.
All right, I had 79 and 83. You'd expect now they're going to be able to do a little bit better than that.
Oh, yes, they are. You know why? The division blows.
Oh, there you go.
The division sucks, Michael Regai.
That's where I was going to go next. I think we expected both the Chicago White Sox and the Detroit Tigers, who played very well in the last 3 months of last season, were over 500. I think the expectations for those two in the AL Central was they're going to both have an opportunity to, win the division along with Cleveland and Minnesota. Well, that ain't happening. And yes, the Guardians certainly benefit from that. But Kenny, I like watching them play. They're fun to watch. They've got, like I said, they're not a team that hits the long ball, and yet they find a way to put together innings. And that's because, it's the right plate approaches. They'll take pitches, Kenny, like they did today in the 9th inning. Looking to draw walks, to be able to value getting on base, putting base runners on, and everybody's not going up there swinging from their heels looking to hit the big bomb. Because, again, that's not who they are. Right. They're not that kind of team. They might be at the bottom when all is said and done of, the fewest home runs of any team in this Major League Baseball season. We'll see, but they could be. But when you put innings together and you hit intelligently and are willing to take pitches, Kenny, and make pitchers work hard to get you out, good things can happen, and they're doing that. That's a testament to Terry Francona and what he's established with that crew.
Reg, I've been up and down on them all season. I look at the catchers they have, and it's a disgrace. The combination of Maley and Sandy Leone and Hedges and Lavastida.
You're right.
One of the worst group position players in all of Major League Baseball. They're hitting like $160 combined, those guys. Awful.
Right.
And defensively, they're 24th. So don't give me this. You got them in there to call games, and defensively, they're not very good there. The pitching, Bieber in his last 9 starts 2-2 with a 2.62 ERA. So he's starting to come around, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good to see. My guy, Savali. Yeah. I'm going to stop singing about him because he ain't pitching worth a damn right now. He got to get his act together. But you know what saved them pitching-wise? Their bullpen has saved them.
Yes, it is.
Eli Morgan, even though he gave up 3, 2 nights ago, he's been outstanding. Emmanuel Clase deserves to be an all-star. That bullpen staff has done a nice job of, getting it from the 6th to the 9th in close games. you look at, they're 39-34, 5 games over 500, right, Reg? And They started, I think, 7-12.
That's right.
So, they've done a nice job. And the big thing here is with the Naylor home run on Wednesday night and the Jimenez home run on Thursday afternoon, walk-off fashion, 17th win in their last at bat.
Yeah,
most in the majors.
Yes, and for a team that doesn't hit the long ball real readily.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
It really is, Michael. So Tito Francona should be in the running for manager of the year with the job that he's done with these the Utes, as my cousin Vinny would say, the Utes. I still would like to see them add a regular left fielder instead of the committee that they use out there. Miles Straw, oh boy, they locked him up maybe a little bit too early. He's struggling at the plate, but defensively he's okay. Jimenez and Rosario have been nice in the middle of the infield. Naylor now, when he's back healthy, gives them another bat. Now the human windmill, Franmil Reyes, that's another thing that I don't know what the hell's going to happen with him, but let Owen Miller play if you're winning games without Franmil. So it's been, like I said, twists and turns, ups and downs, and through it all, here they are at 39-34, only a game out of first in the AL Central. And guess what? The Central stinks, and they got a shot to win this damn thing in the AL Central.
Roman, it's funny too, because we mentioned last night and today, if you're an Indians fan and with a big laugh, give a big thank you to one Rocco Baldelli, whom, as I tweeted out today, Kenny, I might have lost my job. I did that for 8 years every day. And had these incidents come up, if I was doing in that Minnesota Twins television booth today, Kenny, I probably would have got fired after the game because I would have ripped Rocco Baldelli up and down. Two days in a row, he decides with first base open to pitch to first Josh Naylor. And now you mentioned, Kenny, I really like Andres Jimenez. This young kid can swing the bat. He's a hitter, man. Baldelli, first base open, Franmil Reyes, and Kenny, his 42% strikeout rate. Reyes fans 42% of his at-bats, which is for a huge amount of times not making contact with the baseball in the major leagues. And Rocco Baldelli decided again today to not walk a hitter to pitch to Reyes with the game on the line. It's a fireable offense, Kenny, to me. It's a fireable offense. And big ups if you're Guardians fans. Seriously, I'm dead serious. I'm going to tell you that virtually I don't see any other major league manager doing that same thing that Baldelli did the last 2 days, Ken. I don't.
We said the same exact thing after the game today on WHBC, the Kenny and JT show.
You weren't wrong.
I said, look, if Rocco Baldelli were managing the Guardians, I would have ripped him up and down and tore him to pieces because Franmil Reyes, the last time he was up, he swung and missed so hard, he screwed himself into the ground like a top, man. So you had him up next. You walk, and it was righty-lefty. Well, Jimenez is the lefty and the right, and that dude couldn't throw strikes, so he had to groove one. Are you kidding me?
That's right.
Absolutely stupid managing by Rocco Baldelli the last 2 days. You're absolutely right, 100%. And because of that, and that crappy bullpen and average at best defense, I'll tell you what, man, they go out and they get a catcher maybe and an outfielder. Yeah. The Guardians can win the AL Central, no doubt in my mind, as long as they stay healthy. Because this year they all stink in the division, and somebody right around 500 or a few games over is going to win this thing.
I'm going to start looking at, veteran bats because they need that, as you said, preferably in that left field spot. If you can and get some, and again, just guy that can give you a little bit give you some pop, Hit you 250, 260.
What about Benintendi?
Pop.
What about Benintendi with KC?
Yeah, I like Benintendi. He's not a guy that's going to hit a lot of home runs, but hasn't he been hurt though?
I don't know.
On that. I think he's been hurt and missed a lot of time this year. But that's you're right, in the perfect world, and I agree with you too. Listen, you can only tell, and Rhoda and I may be old school, but don't try to tell me that it's okay because, catchers, it's okay whatever they do hitting, as long as they handle the pitching staffs well and have a great bond with the pitchers and do the job defensively. Not 140. No, you can't hit 140 as a major leaguer that's playing ever. I'm sorry, no. I don't give a damn what position you play because you only hit 140. You are a big-time detriment to your team's offense. And so, sorry, that's got to improve. 200, 210, 215, I can live with that if the defense is exceptional and the relationship with the pitching staff. But don't try to sell me on 140. That's ridiculous. That's absurd.
Reg Benintendi, no, he's played 73 games, hit about 308. Okay. Right. Hadn't been hurt. Not a lot of home runs and RBIs, but the average there. So that's some. I'm just looking at guys that he would probably cost you about $4.5 million for half the season, right?
Yeah.
And what would you have to give up to get him? Don't know.
That's a left-handed bet too.
Yeah,
left-handed hitter.
We'll how about this? We'll explore before the next podcast and bring that to the next podcast. Maybe some targets that the Dolans, and how about and we joke about it on the Kenny and Jeff. Blitzer in the situation. David Blitzer taking 30% of the Guardians right now, with the opportunity in 5 to 6 years maybe to buy the whole team, Michael Regai. Mm-hmm. So is there a little bit of a cash flow for this team to make a trade and acquire somebody that might have a couple of years on their contract? What do you think about that before we get out of here?
Plays out, but you have to you have to look at it right now as a positive, because if the willingness is there and the money has been injected into this franchise for that very reason, to be able to go and use that money to, whether to make your decision on talent, in addition to what you draft and develop, those that you bring in as veteran players, we got to have money to do that. And if you're in it for real, that money has got to be there and be obvious that it can be spent. Well, and again, so it's a positive, Ken, no doubt about it.
All right, Reg, that's going to wrap this baby up. By the time we meet again to do this R&R podcast, maybe we'll have a definite decision on Deshaun Watson. Maybe we'll know if Colin Sexton is going to remain with the Cavaliers, or if somebody offers him a restricted free agent contract that is too rich for the Cavaliers in their eyes. He could be somewhere else. And we'll see if the Guardians are still, hanging around in this AL Central. And Michael, like I said, White Sox stink. Tigers suck.
Yep.
Royals are dog crap, Rhoda. Mm-hmm. So it's a 2-team race. And right now, 11 games in the books between the Twins and the Guardians. Guardians are 6-5, and they only trail by 1 right now. And so I didn't think they had a chance at the beginning of the year, but I'm going to back off that and say they got as good a chance to win this division as the Twins or the White Sox or anybody.
Yep. Hang with them. Hang with them. I'm in total agreement with you. I having a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun watching this baseball team. Now, that being said, we just came off a stretch where what did they score in the 5 losses? 7 runs, or was it 8?
I think it was 8.
Okay, 8. Ken, now listen, I'm warning everybody. Yeah. There's going to be another stretch like that,
right?
Because again, this is who they are. Again, they're not a lineup that's going to go deep 3 or 4 times for you and give you that 3-run home run possibility twice a game. That's not who they are. So there are going to be some nights where, it's like, damn, pitching was good and we're getting beat 2-1. Yeah. And you're going to have to ride that out. But there are going to be, I think, as many, if not more nights like the last couple of days, where they bring you a lot of excitement. And like I said, it's fun watching them. I hope they can keep it up.
All right, Reg, always a pleasure.
You
Jordan
too, buddy.
Powell, thanks so much for producing this madness. A shout out to everybody at MGM Northfield Park, as they are the title sponsor for the R&R podcast. No live harness racing on July 4th, but they will have simulcast racing. If you want to bet on that, you can do that. So head on out there for some simulcast action. But your live harness racing, you'll get that after July 4th, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday evening, post time, 6 p.m. And we'll do this again real soon here on the Press Play Podcast Network.